Welcome. Today we're joined by Sean Jordan of StrataPress for a conversation about encouraging owner participation in strata management. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you. Great to be here.
It's a
Welcome,
great
everybody.
topic.
Yeah.
We have touched on various aspects of this in recent weeks, and it's really great to be able to dive in on the subject. Before we get into it, Sean, a couple of words about StrataPress.
Yeah, StrataPress. I mean, we're the largest. Well, I think we're the largest in maybe in Canada, but in BC, largest strata owners portal. Our primary business is facilitating document requests for property managers from realtors and lawyers and notaries, and we snowballed that into a platform that can provide communications and document distribution for strata owners and strata councils and tenants and everybody involved with a strata.
So you know who's who and what it takes to get them engaged and involved, and you have that experience from the inside as well.
I do. From a period of time, uh, I was a strata council president on 3 different councils, and over a number of years, and I was always encouraging more people to participate. And I could talk them into it because we ran it well, and it was an easy job, easy task. I even did it when I lived in the U.S. for 2 years. I was still council president for a strata in Victoria, and we just communicated everything online and did conference calls on the phone. So I always did it because I was interested in protecting my investment. And I think that's kind of the primary driver behind participating in a strata councils should be, protecting your investment, making sure it's run well and it's retaining its value. But there's other motivations, other factors that can encourage people to join the council. And councils play a critical role in shaping the financial health and safety and long-term value of your home. And one of the biggest challenges is getting a few people to step forward and lead on important decisions. And so it relies on these volunteers. And participation, it's not just about filling a seat on council. You need to make decisions and help create a stronger community that you live in. Get involved. And that's kind of what the talking points are about here today is how do you encourage people, or what would be the driving motivations to get involved in something? And that's
And
about it.
obviously, maintaining property value is key, and you do that through exercising, prudent judgment and making decisions that are in the best interests of the community.
That's right.
So, you talk here about quality control and oversight. What are the decisions that you see that the Strata Council has to make um, to hold up those property values?
Okay, well, the question is, have you ever felt that decisions about maintenance or repairs could have been handled better within your strata? So getting involved might help you influence quality control on those things. So you have hands-on influence over standards. You're now holding vendors and contractors accountable for the work they're doing, making sure they're delivering on promises, meeting timelines, and providing value for money. Avoiding things like the lowest bidder pitfall, where people just go at the lowest price, thinking that's in the best interest of the strata, but that's not always the case. You got to look at what value people are providing, and it's not always the lowest price that should be winning bids on stuff. So you get to control those type of decisions. Protect against neglect and shortcuts. Again, being involved, making sure that maintenance isn't deferred too long, and there's no cutting corners, because this will lead to the value of your property going down. So you also have to ensure some other stuff like safety and compliance. Quality control isn't just about aesthetics. It means making sure the building meets safety codes and fire regulations and accessibility standards, so you can make sure your community is within those standards. Protecting your long-term investments, that's a big thing about buildings these days, the lifespans on new buildings and building systems. When you are protecting those long-term investments, you just have to make sure they're maintained properly, and you're staying on top of those type of things, especially the things that work, like your HVAC systems and your even your garage door opener and things like that. You don't want those things just breaking suddenly. So you want to be on top of that stuff. So good counsel will be actively participating in those type of things with quality control and oversight.
Some councils work on their own as self-managed, and others have the benefit of a manager that will support them in some of these initiatives. I know that StrataPress works with both. Those strata councils that have a property manager or a strata manager will obviously be able to get their support to procure some of these quotes, to potentially leverage their expertise and understanding of the different vendors to do some of this. But the rest is on the strata council themselves to ultimately make the decision. And in the case of self-managed, to do that review and procurement process themselves.
Yes.
It's a lot of work, a lot of responsibility, and it helps to have the right people around the table, which I know we'll get into.
And
But
I
a lot
do
of it is.
So I do flip back between self-managed and professionally managed. And you're right that professionally managed stratas will have resources at their fingertips that self-managed stratas do not necessarily have. And so recommendations from a professional property manager can carry a lot of weight with some of these decisions.
Talk to us about financial stewardship and the importance of how strata fees are being spent.
Okay, well, when you pay monthly strata fees, do you feel confident they're being managed wisely? That's the question you got to ask yourself. If you're just sitting on the sidelines as a strata owner, and would involvement help you feel greater control over where your money goes? So you are trusting with the budgets and everything that you pay with your strata fees that those budgets, and you get an opportunity even as a strata owner to approve these things, but that doesn't mean you're controlling how that money's spent in the end, because budgets can change throughout the year and distribution of funds can change. So being involved, strata fees are a shared investment, so you want to make sure that those are getting the best value out there. And providing budgets and transparency in financials, if you're on council, that's what you want to see, because that builds trust with how the council's managing the property with a property manager. You got to take a look at certain things you're responsible for, reserve fund management. Those type of things are important. So you want to make sure that, if you're on council, you're probably planning to live in this development for a number of years. So having proper financial health for those long-term plans and maintenance and other things that you have to do on the property at certain points, based on your depreciation report and so on, you want to make sure you have some oversight on that type of thing, and it's not being wasted, we'll say. So oversight, avoiding costly mistakes, that's where you kind of rely on either people on your council with experience or your property manager, and take a look at, what are some of the long-term goals for your property. There's long-term and short-term affordability issues you have to look at. And of course, financial literacy, when you're on council, you hopefully, if you're in a role of like a treasurer, and we'll talk about this later, you have some experience to bring to the table to help with budgeting and expenses, and those valuable skills can help elevate council decisions. So you're not just flying blind. But that's not always the case. You don't always get a volunteer that has accounting experience, but you'd be lucky if you do. So
Yeah, that can be tricky for sure.
yeah,
And I'm excited to have a conversation about the right bodies to have around the table if you're lucky enough to have a choice, and a bunch of willing volunteers, because this is an unpaid position, and it is a lot of work in most cases. It's meetings, it's critical decisions, it's a lot of responsibility.
it is.
And I guess on the flip side of that, you've got the ability, if you're willing to volunteer, to have your voice heard.
That's right. And having your voice heard is important. This one, fairness and representation. I get a lot of feedback about this, usually because somebody's feeling like they've been wronged or they've been targeted for some reason by the council, or somebody else is getting away with doing something. So the question is, do you feel all owners in your strata are equally represented in decision making, or do certain voices dominate? So what might help ensure fairness is get involved. Every owner has a stake in the property. Every owner has equal opportunity to influence outcomes. And the idea would be to kind of avoid concentration of power, which happens in a lot of stratas. You get a strata that has members that have been on the council for years at a time. Some stratas have bylaws that'll limit the council term for maybe 2 or 3 years and then have to take a year break. You need representation for diverse needs. Owners might have different priorities depending on the age of the building, the unit types that they're living in. So having broader council participation helps balance these viewpoints. So with fairness in rules and enforcement and so on. So, that's one of the things I think is a big driver is fairness and representation. If you don't think that the council's fairly representing all owners, that's where you might want to get involved to make sure that everybody's getting proper representation. And
it is a popularity contest, though. You still have to win your spot on council if there are more
you do
applicants than there are spots.
Yeah, and I was going to say this at the end. Some of the tricks for getting on council. There's only, a few, but one I've always used that works every single time is I show up to the council, the AGM, in a suit. I'm wearing a suit. I look like a businessman. I look like I am trustworthy. I sit at the front and I participate. And you automatically get selected. The guy in the suit over there, I'll nominate him for the council. So you do have to do a nomination thing. And you could talk to other owners as well about, what your ideas are, what you'd like to represent, what could see changes, where you'd like to put your efforts into, what kind of skills you bring to the table. But dress well and look serious. And even if you don't know anybody, you can get on council. So you just have to be able to present yourself properly that way.
That's funny. I'd had another conversation recently where to feel like they would be taken seriously, a property manager felt that they needed to dress to impress and stand during the meetings and maintain that authority, especially when they were young. So quite an interesting take.
It works.
Obviously, it works.
I mean, perception is reality. So look like you understand business and you understand, protection of investment and so on. So just, look the part. Goes a long way.
Not everyone on council is there just for the community or to protect their investment. Some of them have a desire for greater influence.
Yeah, some people are motivated by the chance to shape decisions. So some people may see participation as a way to have a stronger voice in how your stratas run. So there is leadership opportunities. Obviously, in the council, there are roles. So president and vice president and so on. Those are people who are going to be primarily communicating with the property manager or vendors directly if you're self-managed. You can control what your priorities are going to be for the council and for your budget. It all comes back to how you're spending your money. Because really, the role of the council is to maintain common property for the benefit of everybody, all their enjoyment, as well as the benefit of maintaining the value in your property. So, we'll go over a little bit as far as influence and power, but some of the things that you don't want to be faced with as a council that you can avoid, and that would be like getting involved in personal disputes and things like this, but we can talk about that later. So with a desire for influence and power, you've got the ability to drive change. Even for yourself personally, it could be a stepping stone for personal growth. Being on council and participation helps develop some leadership skills, negotiation skills, and you'll be looking into governance skills that transfer into this type of role, making sure you're following the Strata Property Act and things like that. So some satisfying the need to influence others, and some are just, protecting their personal interest. But the balance of power with responsibility is essential. You need somebody who's pragmatic and can make decisions and not get too emotional about it, and can control the council from doing things like, creating new laws, for instance, for the sake of solving a problem. And creating laws and bylaws need enforcement, which means the council has to be available to enforce those new bylaws and rules. So when somebody starts asking about, we should make a rule for this or a rule for that, you can, in your role, say, well, this requires enforcement. And who here volunteers on this council has time to enforce that type of issue? If it's not that important, then just leave it alone. So you have some influence about what bylaws and rules and how the council is actually or the Strata Corporation is actually run outside of just dealing with budgets and decision making, but shape the
And the
governance of the property.
goal of having these rules and bylaws is to build community and to make sure that the community behaves in a way that the owners collectively think is reasonable. And
Yeah.
rules and bylaws cover all sorts of different things, from noise to pets to barbecues to you name it. So there's a lot that you could put rules around, and the question is how much is
Mhm.
needed to create that harmony. And you've got a slide here on building community and belonging.
Yeah. So, how connected do you feel with your neighbors? Some people don't feel connected at all. So, could serving on council help build stronger community ties and reduce conflict if there is any conflict? So, some people are just, more introverted. Some are more extroverted. Some people like to put together and organize events and meetings and those type of things. So, strengthening community neighbor connections is a motivator, reducing any conflicts through understanding. So if you have some mediation skills or those type of things, and you can avoid escalation on personal issues, then those are good skills to have on your council. At least somebody should have those type of skills. You should be able to create a common a sense of shared responsibility with the property, that you're all here together. So you really want to work together. And in order to do that, you got to be friendly on council. You got to be listening to people. Like what they say, people don't, they remember how you make them feel, and you can make people feel listened to by actually listening and respecting their opinions, and look them in the eye when they're talking to you, and take that stuff into serious consideration. That comes back, with StrataPress, that was one of the primary things, is having this transparent way of communicating and being available, because people don't get upset about I can reach somebody to give them a compliment. They get upset when they can't reach you to file a complaint, and things escalate from there. So when you're open and transparent and you're available, then people are pretty calm about what their needs are, and what have you. And there's a process in place for, the council receives communication, you talk about it, you give them a response, and you can talk back and forth that way. So teamwork, promoting inclusivity, um, turning a building into community, they all have positive social benefits. So, and they help a community. If there's difficult times, there's some resilience there if you do have a community support. So if you have a big issue, maybe it was a fire, maybe it was a flood, then you'll find that there's more people will be willing to offer time and solutions when they feel like they're part of the community.
In larger communities, you might not have enough spaces on your strata council for everyone who wants to get involved, and everyone has different skills and abilities. So one of the other avenues, if your strata council is full, is to propose or to get involved with committees. And those committees could include anything from being a social committee to a landscaping committee, to one that helps with special projects. And that's a great way for people to leverage their own skills and interests, either because they can't get on a strata council or because they don't feel that a formal role suits them, but they can contribute in other ways.
Yeah, and exactly that. You don't have to be on council necessarily, but there may be some activities or initiatives around your community, your building, where they need volunteers. And so you can volunteer for that one aspect, whether it's doing a landscaping project or, doing some feedback on some renovations or things like this. So you don't have to be
And
full-time council, but you can volunteer when you see an opportunity. So,
that
and then,
actually
like I
is
said,
important.
even down to having a workout room in one of the stratas I was with, and we didn't have any workout equipment there, but we had somebody who worked in a gym, and he was able to come in and say, "This is what you should have in this space." He set us up with the people who provide the equipment for leasing. He recommended leasing over buying the equipment, which was smart, So, but he wasn't on council, but he had these experiences, and the issue came up, and so he volunteered some time to help us put the whole workout room together. So those type of things. And that comes
That's
down
great.
personal satisfaction, contribution. Like I said, you don't have to be on council, but if you volunteer some time to your council, maybe once a year to work on a project, you get a sense of accomplishment, you get a opportunity to give back, solve some problems for the council where maybe they didn't have the skills, make a visible impact. People see you involved with this project, and that brings people closer together, more familiarity with who you're seeing in your community. And these can range from 30 units to 100. The ones I lived in mostly were about 70 to 100 units. So it was a fair number of people. And yeah, so again, volunteer, and have that, experience some personal growth and learning while you're at it, and boost morale, um, you know, and have pride and ownership in where you live. So that's
For
what
sure.
that type of motivation, personal satisfaction and contribution. Still get involved, still feel good about participating. And I think everybody feels the same after the year they've been on the council. Some would be like, well, that was it. That's all I do. But some people will say, you know what, that wasn't so bad. That was, I still want to be involved. We're doing good things here. And they'll volunteer to remain on council. So that's a good sign too, when people want to be on council, not for the wrong reasons, where they're like, we need control to fix things or do it this way, but to encourage continuation. That's why I was council president, even though I didn't even live in the country. I did the job. I did it transparently, and people wanted me to continue doing that. And I was like, okay, I could do it. Not,
I
not
mean,
too
that's
hard.
a commitment for you, given that you weren't even living on site at the time. But
No.
obviously, you were contributing and you were transparent. And transparency
Yeah.
consistently comes up as being one of the most important aspects of a strata council. And, as you see here, avoiding negative outcomes is as much about communicating the realities and constraints that you live within, given your budget, given the nature of your community and the residents that live in it, as anything else.
Yeah. Well, the one thing, if nobody's volunteering for the council, that can create a negative outcome. So how do you prevent that from happening? I mean, there's consequences of inaction. Uh, avoiding having to get involved, avoiding having to make decisions. There'll be consequences to that if everybody feels the same way. So that's kind of what that's about, is get involved, help, manage your community. It's kind of the same message over and over. Um, there you have to avoid mismanagement. Again, this will be different for self-managed stratas than a professionally managed stratas. A lot of times on a self-managed or a professionally managed strata council, you can skate along and just go with the recommendations by the property manager and so on. But things, when they're just left to make all the decisions on their own, they'll just continue to start just making decisions on their own. May not be in the best interest of your strata or you personally. So you still want to participate and be involved to avoid negative outcomes. That's the bottom line there. Safeguarding. So this one, skill developments. You can build skills on council, like budgeting, conflict resolution, and governance. You can learn more skills. You don't have to necessarily come in to be on council be like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. There's lots of resources out there for getting the information you need to help contribute to your council. So some of the things you may already have: practical leadership experience, financial literacy, if you're involved in conflict resolution, those type of things. If you've been involved with a strata before and you understand the governance, those are great things. That's great knowledge and skills to bring to the table as well. Project management is another one, being able to manage projects, because there will be stratas that do require some multi-million dollar endeavors. So you have to have some
Absolutely.
project management skills. At least if it's being provided by professional management, you can overlook and understand what you're looking at. Other things you can do, there'll be some speaking in front of an audience. We are other strata owners at AGMs and council meetings. So public speaking is another one. I'm not sure if anybody actually uses, being on council on their resume, but I do.
Well,
I bring it up a fair
I'm sure
amount.
I'm sure they do, and I think that it's important, even if you're at any stage of life, you can continue to build your skills. You might have retired from your professional job or career, but have the capacity to assist your community and to learn something new. And
Yes,
so at that stage of life, you can give back and learn something. At the younger stage, obviously, it's something you would put on your resume, and it does either reinforce what you do for your career and your life, as you're proving, Sean, or evidence that you are engaged and committed and a good volunteer, because I think that's something that people do value. And I certainly would see that as being a good thing to have on somebody's resume.
that's right. So even owners with no prior experience can develop valuable new abilities by stepping into a council role. So, and if you're not doing it yourself, you're learning from others who are there with you, because you're not alone. You'll be there with other members who may be in the same kind of frame set in their mind. How did I get here? But
Sometimes we hear stories about people living in communities who are feeling like they're not heard, who are feeling like something's not being addressed. And often, one of the best ways to engage them is to invite them to attend a meeting so that they can better understand the processes and the thought process behind decisions. And maybe that will inspire them to get involved. I
that's right.
see you've got a slide on that.
Yeah. So we know people who criticize council decisions. So you got to ask yourself, how do we turn that energy into constructive participation instead of frustration? Complaints are a signal of engagement. So people who complain often do care about their community deeply, and their energy can be redirected into constructive participation. So turn frustrations into solutions. There's not much you can do when you're just complaining. People only listen to so much, and then it comes down to you. It's like most of the feedback is going to be, we should get involved. So participation, shifts the negative voice into a problem-solving mindset. Now you're being asked, well, okay, that's the complaint. What are you suggesting we do? So we start getting that feedback and turn that energy from negative into something positive. Now they're being listened to. Maybe the negative energy will drop some, and you'll get some real good suggestions. So that also on the council side, promotes credibility, because you're strengthening trust with that
It
person
does.
and bringing them in for helping make decisions. So that's what that's about.
And you
Empowering.
are in a community. There's a whole bunch of different people living in one
Yes.
environment together with different cultures, different perspectives, different ages, and different life circumstances.
Right.
So you've got a huge cast of characters, and ultimately, that's a huge advantage because if you manage to leverage the right people for the right roles, you can build a really great strata council. And you are going to walk us through what I think you have to know if you're trying to build a strata council.
Yeah. So I put a best fit for roles here. Treasurer seems like the easiest one as far as accounting, bookkeeping, banking. Anyone with financial savvy can be on a role of a treasurer, and that's an important role. President, chairman, somebody who's a strong communicator, somebody who can make decisions, pragmatic decisions, can listen to others, be a facilitator. Those type of skills are great. Entrepreneurs and others, people in those type of roles. Vice president is supporting the leadership role, there to assist. And what else we got? Organized note take. Well, secretary, that's one's straightforward too. Some people are really good at this, because when you do a meeting, these things are getting easier too with AI adoption and being able to record meetings and make notes. It used to be you would have to go in and do the minutes of meetings. Somebody had to take minutes. So that's probably the most widely available skill, is somebody who's got that kind of administration office experience. So that's not a hard role to fill. Good one, grounds chair, building grounds chair, making sure that the trades people are doing the job that they say they're going to do. You're able to inspect the work they've done. You have a project management background, something like that does a great role for you. And then now we have privacy officer. So anybody with administration experience there and an interest in privacy and keeping everything the way it should be as far as protecting people's information, should be on the
I think
lookout
this
for
is
those type
great.
of things. Yeah.
because you don't always get everything that you're looking for, but someone who's willing to learn and pick up some of these responsibilities can increase the efficiency of your meetings, the way that you're managing yourselves, and ultimately help make better decisions on behalf of all owners.
Right. Exactly. So, and if you're going to consider being on council, some of the key areas of learning, just put some points in here. Some require a little more in-depth learning than others, but understand the Strata Property Act. It's a big document, but it's well organized, and you can reference that document instead of having to learn the whole thing. You can ask, questions about it. Bylaws and rules of your own strata. You should understand what those are, so that when people ask questions, you understand exactly what they should be able to do and not be able to do.
Yep.
Financial literacy, for the role of the treasurer, of course. Maintenance over repairs oversight. These type of things here you see listed just are things you should be expected to learn or understand on council, regardless of what your role is. So when you're given the insurance document, the insurance summary, you understand what it is that you're looking at and what you're covered for and what you're not covered for. So everybody should know that information, but being on council in particular, so that you know that the council is covered properly with the right insurance. There's professionals out there will help you that type of thing, but it's still good to understand what you're looking at as far as the paperwork goes.
Absolutely. And there are some great resources for anyone looking to join council or as
Yeah,
a Strata Council member as well.
right. And these are very inexpensive. You can be a member of Vizoa, I think, for $35 a year as an individual. Your Strata Corporation can be a member. This is for self-managed stratas. Again, I'm going back to the self-managed stuff because those are the ones that people that usually need the most help. So Vizoa, if you're on Vancouver Island, CHOA, if you're in Vancouver, well, anywhere in BC, they offer a lot of resources and webinars and access to professionals. And same with the Canadian Condominium Institute, the BC chapter. They give webinars for councils, learning webinars, publications you can get as well. So those are good organizations to look into if you're in BC.
Yes, go onto their websites, sign up for the newsletters, join them because they do all offer valuable insights.
Yeah. And this book, which is up on the screen now, Democratic Rules of Order. It's a thin book. It's like 60 pages or something. Very good book if you're on council to pick this up and read through it. It just tells you how to manage a meeting. So you're not going there blind. And again, this is with self-managed stratas. Professionally managed stratas, however, you have a structure and experienced professionals who can help with chairing a meeting. But if you're self-managed, this book is great. It's like $10. And just do a Google search for it, pick it up. It just helps you if you've never done a meeting before. It helps you structure the meeting so it's organized and that you can stay on topic, and little tips and tricks for running a meeting. So a great book to have.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Go get that book.
Yeah.
I
We've
think
got the
is
9th
a
edition,
lesson.
10th edition's out. I don't know what they changed in it, but
We have had a couple of comments today. Sue Langlois joined us and made a comment about the importance of the communication campaigns. That's an absolutely true point. And she loved your best fits for the role slide, John. I did too. That's a great one. You've got some resources you're going to share with this video
yeah.
when we
So
post it.
yeah, we'll post a couple of PDFs. One's just a Strata Council readiness guide. So it's a quick start checklist for new volunteers of, what they should know going into volunteering for a council. This is some helpful tips of what you should understand about that. And also I've got one for property managers or strata managers, encouraging owner participation in strata management. So it's 10 motivators and talking points for encouraging people to join the council. So prior to your AGM, you can send this information out, maybe send it out with your AGM notice. This information will help people understand the value of being on a strata council. Because I know at the end of those AGMs, and it's like, who's going to be on council this year? It's never really been a problem the councils I'm at, but I'm sure there's a lot of places where it's like, I don't know, I don't know if I should get involved. Give them this information. It kind of goes over what we just talked about. These are the motivators. One of these motivators is going to strike a chord with somebody and be like, that's a good point. I should get involved. And that's what we're looking for. We want more people participating. And that takes a lot of stress off those who are, it's put on their shoulders. Let's get some help with them. And same with the strata managers. They also need assistance with running your council, and don't expect to be like just making all the decisions themselves. So we'll
They
put these
do.
two.
They're not actually allowed to make the decisions for
Yeah,
you. You have to
yeah,
make the decisions.
yeah.
They're there to help facilitate. They're there to make your lives a bit easier. But if you don't have the luxury of a property manager, please understand that they are not going to do everything for you. There's a lot of great things that they can do to make your lives easier. But ultimately, it is the Strata Council's decision and responsibility. You've got a lot of great owners that want to be involved. Be transparent with them. The more communicative you are, the more receptive they are to the actions that you're taking, the more they feel like they're heard, the more opportunities they have to get involved, the happier your community will be.
That's
Sean,
right.
thanks so much for joining us today. We do this every month and then again on special occasions. So we're looking forward to what we're going to talk about next month. We'll see you all again very soon.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Thomas.
Thank you.